Okay, so the second main stakeholder in this entire chessboard for you to be able to get your money back is the regulatory agency, RERA, in Dubai. Let's say RERA DLD, okay? DLD stands for Dubai Land Department, and RERA stands for Real Estate Regulatory Agency. Essentially, the DLD is a full government department. Dubai Land Department is in charge of overseeing all of land development, registration, etc. across the board in Dubai, okay? It's a very old organization. RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Agency, is rather new. It was established, I believe, by royal decree in 2007, and it started coming into full form and full function by 2008, 9, etc., etc. So it's been operating for about 13 to 14 years, okay? But what you need to understand in this entire chess game, you need to understand what every player's role is so that you can benefit from their existence or the role that they're supposed to be playing, not overplay your hand so that it backfires, but rather play it exactly correctly so that you can benefit with money back to you, okay? You need to understand a little bit of backstory of RERA, okay? Real Estate Regulatory Agency was established by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed to regulate the real estate industry, because as the Dubai boom took off from 2003 to 2007, 2008, things kind of got out of hand. Like they kind of unraveled, like the spiral was kind of blew out of proportion, kind of got out of hand. A lot of investors lost money, a lot of developers lost money, and essentially speaking, as emerging markets come into more maturity, the regulatory body plays a very, very, very large role. And what Dubai did with the establishment of RERA, and I personally believe that Dubai is the most well-regulated market in terms of real estate in the entire MENA region. This is my opinion, but I personally have seen how it's developed, being a part of the Dubai real estate industry since 2007. And being born and raised in Dubai. And my father worked with the Dubai municipality for 27 years as an architect. So I've been part and parcel of the fabric of Dubai and the whole real estate development scene. Essentially speaking, look, RERA was established to maintain a good regulatory environment for every stakeholder. Now, who's a stakeholder? You are a stakeholder. A lot of people come into play and think if you're an investor and you're investing money in Dubai, then you're the only person who matters. So if you've lost money to a fraudulent developer or a bad decision that a broker made you make, you sometimes think that you're the only one who matters and RERA should just solve your problem. What you need to understand is RERA's role is to play a balancing act to make a safe environment for investments in terms of land, real estate coming into Dubai. So RERA has to balance developers, RERA has to balance investors who buy from developers, RERA has to push the vision of Dubai forward in making it a safe place for people to come and invest. RERA has to essentially regulate. RERA is not the policing service, okay? They're essentially regulators who do have the ability to enforce fines, but you got to understand their mentality, right? The government department, the Real Estate Regulatory Agency, essentially exists to make an attractive playing field for everybody. Developers to come here and develop, investors to come here and invest. Now, that said, RERA has taken a lot of steps from the ground up to ensure that any investment that an investor makes in a development is well safeguarded. Now, I'll give you a few examples, okay? In 2007, 2008, they introduced something called the escrow law, okay? Essentially speaking, if you're going to buy from a developer, you would be paying into an escrow account that's going to be linked with the construction of that development. So if you've got a building that you're buying, your money goes into the bank, from which, as the building gets constructed, this money goes to the development and the construction of the building. Essentially speaking, your money cannot be touched by the developer, therefore the developer can't essentially run away with your money, right? So this was one law that came in. Then RERA introduced something else. RERA said that the land should be in the developer's name and the building should be at least 20% constructed, or the developer needs to put at least 20%, in some cases 30%, into the escrow account, so that despite not making tons of sales, they would be able to complete the building. Because essentially speaking, when you're buying a property in Dubai, the money that you're paying is mostly about 30% goes to the construction, or 40%, sometimes 50 to 60% is sometimes profit or used for other expenses. So if the land is already bought by the developer and taken care of, and there's 20 to 30% in the escrow account, essentially speaking, the developer should be able to complete the construction even with poor sales, right? So RERA introduced that. Then I remember very clearly in 2016 or 17 when developers started introducing in the market guarantees in terms of rental income. So 8% guarantee, 10% guarantee. What RERA, I still remember, did was approach those developers and said, we need a financial instrument placed down with RERA for you to make sure, for us to make sure that you're going to be able to cover these guarantees for the 3 years that you're promising 8% rent. Why does RERA do this? RERA does this because it wants to make sure that any investors that invest in Dubai are going to have a good, safeguarded, good experience of investment, right? So they're not going to get cheated, they're not going to get defrauded by unscrupulous developers. You know, a developer could promise you 8% net rental income for 3 years, but then only pay for 1 year, and then the other 2 years just renege on their commitment and their promise. What do? You'd have to go to court, etc., etc. But RERA's job is to make sure that that doesn't happen. Their role is to make sure there's a level playing field for everybody and investors don't get burned, right? But now notice this, RERA's job is also to make sure that developers aren't burnt by unscrupulous investors who, because they were too greedy, bit off more than they could chew. So RERA is going to, like, if you're defaulting on a developer, essentially speaking, and the developer is keeping up with their commitments, RERA is going to help the developer go after you for funds in some cases as well, right? Well, they're not going to help them, but they make the law, right? They make the law so that it's balanced for everybody. Now that you understand where RERA comes from, and by the way, RERA does have the ability to enforce fines. It does have, it does regulate the developers need to go through courses and understand what they can do, they can't do. Brokers need to go through courses to understand what they can and cannot do and get certified. But what you essentially need to understand, that even though RERA has the ability to place fines on developers or unscrupulous brokers, RERA is not a resolution center per se. They're a regulatory body. Their main job is to regulate Dubai's real estate, make it attractive for investors to come in and develop and investors to come in and buy property. Their job is not to be the police force ensuring, well, yes, they do ensure that rules are kept in alignment, but you got to understand, like, when I say that their job is not to be the police force, I'm saying this from a ground reality situation, because a lot of people will think that just by going to RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Agency, with their complaint or their beef or their grief, RERA is going to step in immediately and resolve it for you. And not going to happen. RERA is a regulatory body. They're super busy with all the other stuff they're doing. And I'm not saying they're not going to listen to you. It's just not part of their mandate to immediately solve your problem. Most of the time, they're going to give you advice such as go to court, etc., so on and so forth. So what you need to understand, and I hope you've listened thus far, is RERA is a regulatory agency, and what you can do is always, and I'm going to go through the actual action steps that you can take, is always use the threat of going to RERA rather than actually going to RERA, right? The best way I can explain this is, think about that mom who's been home with the kids before daddy comes home, right? And there's this certain point where mom's had it, boys are being boys, being very mischievous, maybe girls are being mischievous too. And at some stage, mom's going to make a threat, okay? That threat's going to be to the kids, wait till daddy gets home. Now, I'm not saying that that's how you should be parenting, but sometimes it might happen, right? You might say, wait till daddy gets home. I'm going to be telling him about this, right? Now, that as a threat works wonders because most of the times kids fall in line. But there is that threshold where if you actually tell daddy, like on the phone, like the kids are misbehaving, so you better come home and fix them, guess what's going to happen? The kids are going to be like, okay, the shit's hit the fan. There's probably nothing else or nothing worse that could happen. So, you know what? Let's do what we were doing anyways. So, you always, during this course, I want to explain this, we always use the threat of RERA, but it is not the first port of call for you to resolve your situation. There is a situation that you're stuck in, okay? I hope I've been able to make myself clear because RERA is a regulatory agency. They're not a policing force. When you go to them, they'll listen to you, but they're not the first port of call for you to get your problems resolved with regards to the developer. Okay, check you out on the next video. I'm going to talk very specifically about the developer's role. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. My name is Fahd Dawood. I've been doing this for 15 plus years. I started in 2006 in Toronto, Canada, and since 2007 I've been practicing real estate in Dubai. If you want to work with me, reach out. There's a forum and a mobile number that you can reach out to be able to work with me. I do paid consulting to help you with my services. My team and myself are available. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends so that they may be able to benefit from the advice given here. My goal is to invest in your life and your future. Thanks for watching.